who are huge resources to you. So keep in mind that we're not just talking about young kids who are privileged and don't know anything about anything, because students come from a broad range of backgrounds and places in their life and ages and all of that. But then we're also talking about students are the largest part, usually, of the population on campus, but we're also talking about administrators, we're talking about faculty, we're talking about other staff, we're talking about, custodial workers, we're talking about alumni, we're talking about a lot of different types of folks. Essentially, a university is a mini city. It has everything to be self-sustaining happening there. There are trucks bringing in the food. There are places where people live. All of these things are happening on the college campus. So when you're thinking about doing campus and student organizing, what you're really doing is doing just organizing. And you happen to be talking to an educated, academic group of people. So your messaging is a little bit different, and the way you might frame your work is very specific to talking to people who are involved in the educational system. But you're really using the basics of organizing to bring people together. And the same way that you need to think about your audience, you need to think about your message, and you need to think about your messenger when you go and talk to those folks. You got to think about who am I, what am I saying, and who am I saying it to. And you always need to be thinking about that in organizing. And that's the core of what we're doing, because it's about trust, right? No one's going to do something or be a part of something where they don't know what it is and they don't know who you are and they're a little worried about why you might be talking to them. It's really about trust. So whether you're talking to old folks where they live or you're talking to young folks where they live, you're really talking about building a rapport with a person who has a story, who's interested in who you are and what your story is and what's going on. So always keep those things at the front of your mind, that we're not just trying to say, how can we use a college campus to do blah, blah, blah. What we're saying is there are, in many cases, 100,000 people involved in this community, and how can we get that community aware of what we're working on, and how can what we do support the things that they're already doing. So it really is about mutual aid and collaboration, the same way that it is to organize a labor union, the same way it is to organize a local chapter, the same way it is to organize anything, is really about collaboration. So when you're specifically talking about, are people here because they want to organize new chapter? I'm sort of interested, can we just popcorn from you all some reasons why you're here? Like you want to start a new chapter, or you want to make your chapter bigger, or you just don't know what to do. So can I just hear some things about what people want to be doing after this workshop? I'll just go sweep across here.
I'm going to school up in Davis, so I want to get involved. I know it's a week based right now over there, and I just want to learn as much as possible so that I can.
Cool. Yes.
I live in Miami. We had an organized chapter in Florida International University when Nader ran, and it was very good and very useful. But the campus cycle. If you don't keep active there, then that chapter disappears.
Exactly.
So how do you keep that?
Okay. Yeah. A couple other things people want to hear about. Just go ahead here.
I'm a non-traditional student at Penn State. They have a program called Go 60 where I can take classes in other spaces.
Right.
And I was involved with Occupy Penn State, got to know most of the progressive leaders in the university. But one of the problems is there was a young woman who was still involved, but everybody goes home in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
So there's really nobody really, for example, help me get petitions signed.
Okay, so far we have turnover, summer, starting chapters.
Strengthening chapters, if you're not on campus.
Oh, okay, cool.
Just want to bring more youth into the Green Party in general.
Yeah, right, totally. I had a couple back there.
Running a campain for county commissioner.
So how to involve the campus in the campaign?
Right.
Okay, back here.
I'm an alumni at OSU, Ohio State, and so I want to restart a campus greens group at OSU.
Sweet.
But I've been off campus for quite a while now, so I need to figure out how to get some students who have the standing to start a group.
Been involved, I think, the education about Green Party politics on campus. The professors are dying to have Green Party representatives come in and talk to their classes, all of those kinds of issues as well.
Yeah. Okay, so go ahead.
Yeah, I'm particularly interested in making sure that we actually start before college, and I'm interested in high school greens, college greens.
Yeah. Go ahead, Eli.
Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Seriously. It's not enough said, I think, is probably.
What can I do to get locals started? I know that I can't do it myself.
Sure.
How do I go about finding the students who will do it?
Sure, sure.
That's
Okay.
it. How do we find the people who will do it?
Gotcha.
The Green New Deal and technical colleges, all
Ooh.
vocational colleges out there.
Yep.
Don't just go to universities.
Exactly. Harrison.
Good idea.
He was saying about the Green New Deal and the connection to the technical colleges and being able to talk to folks about tuition-free education. Did you have one, Harrison?
Yeah, a couple of things. Oftentimes campuses will have environmental student clubs already, and so that's a great base. Second thing, speak with professors who teach environmental courses. Ask, maybe you could do a 2-minute presentation at the beginning of the class, talk about your program or your organization. And thirdly, I'm in student government, and I think it's important that we have student leaders in positions and elected positions, because that's given me a new confidence to potentially run one day in the future, and also a perspective how the system works.
Let's talk afterwards and tell me how to do it.
Yeah, I mean, and this is really what it's about, right? Is that there are folks who are already on campus who really are hoping to be more strongly connected to folks off campus. There are a lot of people on campus who want to be more connected to other people on the same campus. And then there are folks who are trying to get in. And all of those people kind of need the same stuff, which is that you need to actually talk to each other. And that those of us who know need to tell folks who don't what's going on. Are most people here, familiar with sort of like the breakdown of what happens on a college campus? Like, are a lot of people have experience with higher education, having gone to there and being in those communities? Okay, I just didn't want to, assume that everybody has been there and done that. So there are some and like I said, that colleges are just a mini community, right? So they have governance structure, right? They have, the food and the lodging, and they have the basic sort of human services. But then there's also rights and responsibilities that everybody in the community actually has. There are a lot of, and then there are, people who are organizing, whether that's formal student organizations or your faculty faculty senates, or that's talking about just people who work together in loose affiliation on a particular issue. The same way, so you all know, if you know how to organize in your community, you know how to organize on a college campus. It's just that you might need to be thinking about tweaking to your population. So something that a lot of folks don't realize about colleges and universities is one, that faculty and staff and administrators are not a united front of people who work together, right? They're not all happy and love students, and they're just here to serve. That's not what's going on, right? So when you go, and if you're specifically trying to work with students, and especially those students who are already involved, and that's actually who you all want to be targeting. If you're trying to get in, you want to get in with the activist core. You don't want to get in with just one org, and you don't want to get in with just one issue. You want to get in with the activist core, because I guarantee you that every college campus has one, where there's probably somewhere between 5 and 50 students who are basically doing everything. And that's including the conservative students and the radical students on the left. There are not that many people who are working really hard the same way that it is in the larger political world. So remember that you're talking about a small group of people that you really want to find out who they are. And the way to do that is by going to the things that they're doing. Go to the events, go to their movies, check out their website, watch their Facebook, and remember that social media does not transit into the real world, so there may be people on social media who don't actually do anything on campus, right? And vice versa. People who do stuff on campus who aren't online. So you can't just depend on one of those things to be true, especially when you're talking about the radical left. A lot of those students aren't on Facebook. A lot of those people don't use Twitter because they don't believe in it, because they believe in old school organizing, face-to-face, person-to-person, and using the phone. So remember that there are different methods. You're not just talking about tech-savvy young people who don't know how to interact in face-to-face life. We're talking about a lot of different types of folks here. So remember that you really want to get in with that activist core if you're trying to organize students, because they exist. And honestly, the activist core of people who are the conservatives, sometimes for Greens, I think can be our allies. And especially if you want like the gentleman here is talking about running campaigns and like talking about organizing. There are a lot of people who want experience working on campaigns. And there are a lot of people who want experience, and they need, like Ursula is talking about in New York, that they're doing internships because they know folks need internships to graduate. So no matter what you're working on, you can find a way for it to make sense for a student or a faculty member to work with you, either because they need an internship, and you need interns, so it's a natural relationship, or that people want experience because it's their field. And so even if they're a Republican, they may want to understand how independent politics works, and they may want to help do something for you just to have the experience of having done it, because they don't know if in their life they're going to just be working for Republicans, because they probably aren't, right? So a lot of people just want the experience of working on a campaign and being a part of the political process. So don't rule anybody out because you think they have a different ideology or you know what they're involved in. Like I said at the youth organizing session the other day, make no assumptions. Come to people with who you are and what you want and ask them questions and have a real, true dialogue, and don't think you're going to start by, I know you don't know anything about anything, so let me tell you all this stuff. Because you start there and you find someone like Harrison or like Alex or like Ursula who's like in an activist core, and guess what happens? They're like, screw you, not having a conversation, and they'll tell everybody else in that activist core not to talk to you because you are judgmental, or because you are ageist, or because you lectured them about what they need to do, and they will shut you out because they don't need you, you need them. So if you're not already plugged in, you have to remember that you need them. And you need to respect them, and you need their trust. Not that you need their energy and their hours and their contacts. You need their trust is what you need to focus on building. So that's a little bit about sort of the student part. With faculty and staff are a huge, huge, huge resource. One, because they know the students. So the students who come to their classes, who participate, they know the students who are involved in the student organizations and the student government. They know the students and the other faculty members who might be Greens or who might already be doing stuff. You just maybe haven't met them yet. And so as you're approaching people, sure, we do the one thing where we like sort of stereotype and we say, let's go to the government classes and the poli-sci classes, and that's certainly a place to go because most of them will maybe let you do a class wrap, which is just to go before a class and talk for 2 minutes and say, here's what's going on, and then class starts and things move on with their day. But you might be able to get those things. In some campuses, it's impossible. It really depends on the campus. But that's one way that faculty and staff can help you, is that they can give you their captive audience of their students for you to speak with them. And we don't really depend on more than 10%, that's a high number, of any kind of return from doing a class wrap. But the repetition of people just hearing it over and over, and if you're, for weeks going to classes, they'll see it in different classes. They might see you a lot of times, and then they'll see you walking around in the union, and they'll come up and they'll say, hey, you came to my class. So they may not talk to you the first time that you see them, and they may not talk to you the second time that you see them, but they will talk to you if they're interested, if you're available. So don't just come to do your thing and get the hell out. If you aren't a part of the campus community, you need to spend some time there, and you need to try to meet folks, and you need to be visible. Volunteer to help people. Ask student orgs, how can I help you? Ask people in the faculty senate, do you need support from the community? What's going on with issues on campus that the whole community outside of campus needs to hear about? And I'd love to help tell people what's going on. And we in the Green Party are very concerned about education in this country. And go to them and tell them how concerned you are and ask them those questions. And I guarantee you they will tell you a million things you could do. Some of them you won't do, but it's good to ask. So, like I said, it's all about trust. Administrators, sometimes worth your time, probably not. I would definitely say go to your activist core of students, identify some faculty, and then figure out if you want to go to campus administration and ask for them to get involved. Sometimes you luck out and you're in communities that are, especially like places like California, or places where there are elected Greens, there tend to be administrators who are a little bit more friendly. But in a lot of places, they're too busy, you don't matter, it's not interesting to them. So be aware that, it's really great to think that the president of the university is going to come to your event or speak at your whatever, but they probably don't care. But they may care if you work with students and faculty to have an event on campus and you invite them to do a welcome to all the Greens and people in your movement who are coming to the campus for the event. They might write you a welcome letter, or they might come and meet people at a meet and greet. And that might be your in to start talking to them, for them to realize that maybe they are down with what you're doing. And what the work we're doing in the Green Party is a good thing for students and faculty and staff and for public education or private education, depending on what kind of campus you're at. So that's the last distinction I'll make between public and private campus organizing, is they're very different. Well, they used to be very different. It's not really very different anymore because public education is so expensive. What is different sometimes are the types of folks that go to the school, based on if they're, if it's a school that's known for its law school and, its MD program is very different than going to a tech college, right? Or going to a public school that focuses on training teachers. That you're going to see a difference in the types of folks that might want to come and be a part of getting that type of education. But ultimately, right now, pretty much every student is beaten down into a corner of debt and joblessness and a future which is, peppered with destruction of all types. So students everywhere are in the same boat. And a lot of people now go to private schools because you don't get a perk from going to a public school. You don't get anything. A lot of people aren't getting any money or any support to go to public school. So people who otherwise might have are now going to private school because they're like, well, I'm going to pay that much. I want to go to the place that has the professors with the names, and I want to go to the places where they have these legacy programs where I'm going to get a better job because I went there. But there are people who would otherwise go to public school, but it doesn't matter because they're in debt anyway. So we have to remember that the student population in my generation is very different than any other student population because of what we are going through as a generation in this political moment. So just remember that we know what's going on, and we are sort of seeing our friends either in jail, fighting wars because they can't go to school and their only path is military, or to be buried in student loan debt. And that is the three-pronged path of most people in my generation. And it's disgusting and it's sad, but we all know that. So you don't have to come to us and tell us what the problems are. You need to go to campuses and talk to students about what your solutions are. Because people in my generation are not afraid of the alternatives to the status quo and the establishment. Most of them, because they know that the establishment has nothing to offer them. And the status quo is taking them in a future that they don't want to be a part of. So if you go and you talk to them about how you can work together to do things for the university, to do things for them as their generation, or talking to faculty and staff about, I know that most of y'all are on food stamps, and most of y'all don't have solid contracts, and most of you don't know if you're going to have a job next semester even though you've been teaching here for 25 years, because that's the way the university treats faculty and staff. Not to mention non-academic staff who are in a totally other environment, totally ignored and downtrodden and exploited. And we think of faculty and staff as these people who make a lot of money and they're these experts and they're like hoity-toity, blah, blah, blah. They're not. These are people who have, like, you open their fridge and there's a bottle of mustard and they got holes in the bottom of their shoes. They're exhausted people who work their butts off and they get nothing for it except you're an elitist, from the rest of the community. So we have to remember people are very different at the university than they were 20 years ago or 50 years ago. It's a totally different world. It is really working class and lower class folks who are trying to get themselves out of that and work their way through. And people who thought they were middle class, if that even exists, I don't believe that it does. That they think that they're middle class, but they're living in debt just the same way all the rest of us are. So when you go to campus, don't think that people are elitists, because remember, they're diverse, and that you may see someone who's older and assume they're a faculty member, but just like this gentleman in the front, he's like, I'm a non-traditional student. You can be a 60-year-old vet, and be a student, and that's very, very, very common. So don't just walk up to someone and be like, hey, I want to talk to you about your students, or where do you teach? Because that's not the case. And don't go up to someone who's young and assume that they aren't teaching classes, because that's also happening too. So remember that it's just like organizing anywhere else. You want to build trust, you want to get in with your activist core, and you really want to talk about how you can collaborate. And really what you're saying is, I come from this community, which is the Green Party, or I come from this community of the leftists in New York City, and we're coming to this SUNY campus to talk to you about how we can work together to do this thing for the city of New York City, right? And that's what we're trying to do together. And when you talk to people that way, they're way more interested in, even if they don't want to do the thing you want to do, they realize you want to work together, and they might start asking you how you can help them. And I think offering help first is the way to build trust, is to go in and say, I know you're in a tough spot. I know we don't know each other. I'm curious in hearing your story and why you're a student organizing, or why you're the faculty member somebody told me I should talk to. And ask them what's going on with them, and ask them their story, and find out what they work on, and ask them how you can help. And I guarantee you they will flip it back and they will ask you, how they can help. Is if they know that you're really invested in their future. And the biggest thing that people need to hear in this country on college campuses is they need to hear the Green Party, wants to forgive student loan debt and make all public higher education tuition free. When people hear that, faculty and staff and students, maybe not administrators, they don't like that so much, they're a little scared right now. They're still scared of the alternative to their current funding model. But everybody else is not. Everybody else is on board. So remember that. So when you go and you tell them that, that is your golden ticket to anybody who isn't in it to make a lot of money. So I think that's the one thing I could tell you is just use our message, right? Use what we believe in and our values to relate to people, and they will flock to you and they will want to work with you. But don't come and say, we need people who want to work 50 hours a week, and we thought if we came here, you'd do it for free. What do you think? Because they're going to be like, oh, you want to exploit us just like the people who we work for, just like the university, just like the nonprofit industrial complex, just like the corporate America, like, we don't need more people to exploit us. Have a great day. So just be really mindful, because I know Ben was mentioning it before, and I'm not trying to call out Ben, but just to say that may be true, and we may know that, but that is the case that we can't go to people and say that because we get shut down right away.
Ben says you have to end right now.
Great.
Maybe 60 seconds.
Great. So I'm done myself, and I can go. Yeah. So if y'all want to say questions, you can certainly say them, and there may be other people who want to come and answer them, or you can just come up and talk to me. But I'm curious to hear sort of where people are at. So if you have questions, feel free to yell them out, but I can't guarantee I'm going to answer them.
Okay. Party. Students, the minute you say party, political party, we're turned off. How do you deal with that?
You go to people and you talk to them about what we're working on, rather than going and saying, I'm from the Green Party. We're
and then they find that out and they think you were lying to them.
That's not the case, I don't think. I really think that we say the Green Party is trying to build a big tent. We want to be, Jill Stein and Sherry Hunkel are candidates for the 99%. We're here to organize folks to be a part of that movement. We want to be the electoral arm of that. If you're interested in electoral politics, we'd love to talk to you. So yeah, we can, folks, but I think that's a really important point, is to talk about the Green Party not as a political party running candidates, but as a big tent of people on the left who need to support each other, and we need each other to go there. So that's the best way to talk about it, and that's where students will hear you and want to start a student org to work on that, and they'll want to try to get campus money to work on that.
Thank you.
I'm going to go this